Speaking of stones,
Yes.
we just had one of my favorite guests of all time join us on our podcast, Rock. And we talked about all kinds of stuff, everything from fatherhood to Black Lives Matter movement and where he was during all of that and where he's at in his life now. What was your favorite part of that episode, G?
I just liked how he's able to talk to his daughters and have adult conversations with them and not sugarcoat it. And also the fact that, that he has support and that he's not in this all by himself.
Right. It takes a village sometimes to get through things in life, and he's definitely built his village and personally he's one of my friends that I know I can call on for anything and he'll be there. Much like when I asked him if he would record a podcast that he didn't know that I had. So, yeah, he's a solid person and by far one of my faves.
And now, welcome to season 2, episode 3 of Shit That Goes On in Our Head, Solid as a Rock.
Welcome to another episode of Shit That Goes On in Our Heads. I'm Dirty Skittles. I'm joined here by G-Rex. And today's guest is Rock. Rock?
Hey there.
You want to say hello to the ladies?
Sup, ladies? How y'all doing tonight?
To the single ladies out there. Rock is also single, right?
Like long walks on the beach. Don't like the sun. My tan is good enough. And sand gets everywhere. But we'll make it work, ladies. Holler at your boy.
So Rock and I have known each other for a very long time. We literally just established how many years it was, and I've already forgotten. Did you say 12?
Yeah, give or take.
12 years that I've known Rock. We met through my now husband. We've worked together for a very long time. You were even in my wedding.
I was the bridesman. And it was a very, very good time. And I will say one inside story. I went to both the bachelor party and the bridesmaid party. Without giving any details, hands down, the bridesmaids party way harder than the bachelors did. Way harder. I literally went to my room and prayed that night. I got the Bible that comes in a hotel. I got my rosary beads. I prayed in like 6 different languages, and I was just like asking for protection. I was worried.
Dirty. I almost said Dirty Rex. Dirty Skittles knows how to throw a mean bachelorette party. It wasn't even me though. It was my maid of honor. Kudos to my crew. So Rock, I thought maybe you could give us some insight on your life and what it's like to be a single dad.
Yeah, I mean, as mentioned, I am a single dad. I'm about to turn 40 this year.
No way, dude. Yeah. I'm older than you?
Yeah, you are.
That's bullshit.
I make funny about that all the time.
Not as old as you, Rex, though.
Not as old as the Silver Fox either. So that's fun. Silver Fox, if you ever listen to this, that's for you. But no, I'm gonna be turning 40 this year. I have 3 wonderful kids. One son who's gonna be 21 this year. My oldest daughter who's gonna be 20 this year. And my youngest daughter, who's going to be 11 this year. Now, in terms of kids that I got a participation trophy in terms of bringing into the world, my daughters are mine. My son, he's the brother of my oldest daughter. When me and her mom met, he was 4 months old. Since that time till today, I've been, no disrespect to anybody else, but I've been the only steady father figure he had in his life. So I don't think I told you this, but last year I officially legally adopted him.
Oh, congrats.
So, yeah. So now on both in my heart and on paper, he became my son.
Aw.
Yeah. Cool kid. Okay. Cool kid. Lazy as fuck, but cool kid.
Well, hopefully he doesn't listen to this. So I have a very strange question.
Sure.
You don't have to answer it if you don't want to. We'll edit it out.
I'm an open book, homie.
I've known you in your single days.
Yeah.
I've definitely been rubbing elbows with you at a club once or twice.
Yeah.
And I know that your daughters are like, do you think it's fate that you only had daughters for a minute?
Um, there's that cliche, right? Like you the cliche, like, if you treat women bad, you're going to get daughters. That way you get to reap what you sow, so to speak. I don't think that's the case. I don't ever think I was ever that club person, or, that person that would go out like every weekend and everything like that, try to hit on every single girl that I see and everything like that. I was never that person. Don't get me wrong. If I saw somebody I like, I was like, oh yeah, you, me, let's go. But it was never in a sense like to where I was trying to get, for lack of a better word, notches on my belt. So that being said, I don't think I had girls as a way to like get me back, so to speak. I will say this though, I like having girls. Like I said, I have my son who I raised, I have my daughters who I raised, and I have nephews. And no, nothing against my nephew's parents, but they're all bad as fuck. And my girls were dope. I didn't have anything to worry about them. If anything, it's like, no, don't do that. And end of story. My son, he was pretty good too. But when I'm looking at my nephews and like how they're growing up, I'm just like, man, oh man, oh man. If I had a co-hanger.
Oh my word.
Like, they are bad. They are bad.
So just for clarification, I think the reason I was asking you wasn't so much like to get back, but I wondered what perspective that put on you as a single person, having daughters now, like having to raise females who may or may not,
Date.
Yeah.
It's been interesting because like my oldest daughter, she recently just got into the whole online dating, and by online I mean the apps and everything like that. And I had to give her the whole speech, like, like, all right, let me tell you something. All right, there's these different type of guys. There's the straight up chads that's like, you want me, blah blah blah, and there's like the assholes, the guys that pretend to be nice but not really nice, and then there's actually really nice people. I was like, I just had to give her like, I don't call it game, but I would have to tell her from perspective, like, I'm considered not to sound braggadocious, I consider myself a nice person, but there are times when I go out there and I'm just like, nah, I'm not looking for anything serious. I'm just want to, play guess where this goes and then call it a day. And so, and this is the hard part, talking to my daughter out, for me to verbally say, if that's what you want, I die inside. But at the same time, I don't want to give that. I want to try to raise my girls to not be ashamed of their sexuality. You know what I mean? If my daughter want to go out there and do her thing, more power to you. Because like, if my son was having a conversation, and most parents might see this and especially in our generation, like if you look at it, if you had like brothers and they're going out there, I got these random girls, like high five, yeah, you got this. But if a girl comes home like, I just got these random dudes, oh, they start shaming them. You know what I mean? So I never want to put my girls in that situation to where they have to feel bad about them living their lives. Also, I wanted it to be comfortable, even though I don't want to hear it. I want them to be able to be comfortable to come talk to me about this type of stuff, And so that being said, so when it came to, with my older daughter, when it came to dating and everything like that, when she started doing all that stuff, it was weird having that conversation, but it was a conversation that needed to happen. And no, nothing against her mom. It's not, certain things are not easy for her to talk to her mom about. Mm-hmm. So she'll come talk to me about it. So I had to be like, take myself out of my own head to a degree, mm-hmm. and be like, all right, don't overreact. She's coming to you because she can't go to somebody else. So just woosah, be there, talk to her, go buy a gun.
Oh my word.
And then everything will be all right. So it's definitely interesting. It's definitely interesting.
So Rock, I just have a question.
Sure.
As a single dad, like, okay, this is I'm going to sound stupid saying this, but when you had to have that talk before they even did they come to you before they even reached puberty, where you had to have that talk about birth control and things like that, or did that come from their mom?
So my son, funny enough, never talked to me about that stuff. Like, yo, Dad, I'm about to go out and smash some butt. What do you want me to do? Mm-hmm. He never had that conversation with me. My oldest daughter, I got lucky due to a medical condition. She's already on birth control to help control some other stuff that's going on with her. So I got to bypass that. So really with her, it was more just having the conversation and just like understanding, like, she had one boyfriend for like a week in high school and he sucked. I swear to God, if I was like younger, I would have kicked his ass. But he just sucked. And then so, that was her only experience in dating in high school. And I was like, I want to say that was like 10th or 11th grade. And they dated for like 2 weeks. And she came home, she was like, good. I'm just sitting here like, oh God, here we go. Because like in my mind, I'm like, it's just high school. It's not somebody you dated for like years to where you have a strong connection with. It's somebody that gave you, I guess, your first glimpse of attention in that capacity. So I get the impact of that, but it's not as long lasting. So once she got over it, she kind of took a pause for a long time, and the whole online dating thing just became more recent, maybe like in the past year. So with the timing, really didn't need to with the timing of her situation, I really didn't need to have that conversation centered on birth control. I jokingly say like, hey, just don't make me a grandpa at a young age. Or I jokingly say, please be a lesbian for like the next 5 to 10 years. Then after that, reevaluate your life if you want to. That's usually my little joke for her. And so like, that's so that way I have a little bit of time. Because I would, I would like to have some gray hair before somebody's like, hey, here you go. Babysit this for me. Like, But I think I lucked out on that. With my youngest one, maybe not. I won't have that luck. But so far, with the oldest, I got lucky.
Nice.
So can I ask one more question?
Sure. Yep.
In today's environment, how much different is it raising your 11-year-old than it was raising your two oldest, your oldest son and your oldest daughter?
In my experience, it's a huge difference because it's more technology is in front of their faces. With my youngest, with my oldest ones, it was during that transition where kids were not as attached to a screen as they are today. So they weren't as exposed to things as they are today. I'll tell you a story with my youngest one. Maybe it was like, she's like I said, she's gonna be 11 this year. So this was maybe like a year and a half ago. I was going through her tablet to plug it in, charge it and all that stuff. Check the browser history. She had like 10 pages of history of porn to look up. Like, not like, let me Google boobs. She went to actual websites and she had videos queued up. I'm like, oh my God, you're 10 years old. How are you learning this stuff so early? Now, I'm very careful about looking over my shoulder once or twice, but like before I get the Jergens out, just like making sure that nobody sees nothing. So to me, it was like, that blew my mind because I would have never had that with my other kids, you know what I mean? So to see that a 10-year-old is just looking at that stuff, I say on her own. She blamed it on her friend that lives in the neighborhood. Who knows? But to see my 10-year-old like, be exposed to that at such a young age. And the reason is because they have like a piece of equipment that connects them to their world in their hands 24/7, not that I'm like, the type of parent that's like, here's a tablet, go away, leave me alone. But, while I'm working and if I'm doing something, it's very common for them to have the device in their hands. And I thought I did a good job about being like, let me block this, let me block this, let me block this, let me block this. The kids find a way. They find a way to break all the rules.
How did you handle that situation?
I did it. I called her mom. I was like, hey, just so you know, this is what I found. What do you want to do? And we kind of game planned the plan together and everything like that. And then we handled it that way. We did ask her like, hey, where did this come from? She blamed it on one of the kids in the neighborhood. So we didn't yell at her like, this is bad, but it's more so like it's inappropriate, if that makes sense. And I will say this for all of my kids. I have 2 baby mamas, mothers to my children. I will say this, one thing that really has helped me, you guys said I was single dad earlier. I kind of think of it as a co-parenting, if you will, because it's not like the mothers are not in the picture at all. But it does help to have that level of communication between both parents to make sure that what you're doing is the best outcome for the kids.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the way you approach it was well. Like, you did a good job. I can't imagine my dad having found my stuff at 10 and coming on road stream for everybody that knows Crazy 8 doesn't typically.
It was crazy. I was looking at it. I was like, oh my God. Send this to myself. Oh my God.
Oh, no
my God.
way,
What is she
dude.
Googling?
Man. This might be a silly question, kind of going off of what G-Rex asked. How hard is it to raise a girl versus a boy? Is there a difference? Do your tactics stay the same, or?
There's some pros and cons. Behavior wise, again, in my personal experience, the girls definitely did not cause me any type of behavioral problems compared to my son and compared to my nephews, like I mentioned earlier. But there are some things that, as a father, I can't address. Whenever they start going through puberties and stuff like that, I can't necessarily explain everything. I could Google stuff and try to explain stuff, but I can't speak to it from a personal experience. So that's why, like I mentioned earlier, it's really, I'm fortunate that, one, their respective mothers are good moms and they're able to help me out with things of that nature. Two, I have a very good support system since they were born on my family side and everything like that. Because, as an example, like me, when I'm doing their hair, washing it, I do all that stuff. My hairstyles, you got a ponytail, pigtails, ponytail to the side, left or right. Those are my hairdo choices. That's it. So, when I need them to be a little bit more gussier, I hit up my sister, be like, hey, do some stuff with their hair. Like, I literally call her, be like, hey, you home? Yeah, I'm bringing one of the girls by for some hair stuff. So when they want to do braids and stuff like that, I could lean on my sister. So in that regards, and yeah, I know that stuff I could learn, but I tried to braid once, and if I was put in a pinch, I could do it. But trust me, you wouldn't be like, yo, Rock, hit me up, braid my hair, dog. You would not be doing that anytime soon. So I'm fortunate for those areas where I would fall short, that I do have people either directly in their lives in the sense of their moms, and directly in my life in the sense of my sister and my mom, to help me out and lean on in that regard, to be like, hey, this is some lady stuff that I really don't have the capacity to fully handle properly or as well as wanted to be handled. So can you please help me out? So I'm really, really, really fortunate in that area.
So in today's environment, do you have any fears for your kids?
Yeah, of course. If it wasn't evident by earlier comments, I'm a black man. I'm raising black kids. My kids are all mixed race. Two of them are Puerto Rican and black, and the other one is like white and black, but which is basically black, right? So there is some fear in that regards, because for my son, and I don't mean to sound so negative about the world today, but the reality of it is there will be situations where the first thing that they're gonna look at is he's a tall kid, and he wears like black clothing all the time, always has a hoodie on, Jinko jeans and everything like that. So they'll look at him and be like, here's this black person, tall, quote unquote scary. That's going to be like the first judgment that a lot of people will have for him. And so I have to educate him on how to talk to people, how to present himself and things like that, which it sucks that it's a conversation that has to happen. But unfortunately, that's the world that we live in right now. But my daughters is 2 strikes. You're a female and you're a black female. So there's 2 strikes against them in society that shouldn't be there. But unfortunately, that's hurdles they're going to have to potentially deal with depending on where their paths take them in life. I'm hoping by the time they get to my age, it's not a hurdle. But the reality of it is it probably will be. It's something I had to deal with, and something unfortunately they'll have to deal with. So in that regards, that is something I'm genuinely scared of. For my girls, I don't want them to, obviously, you don't want them to be in some type of abusive relationship or anything like that, especially with somebody who's taller than me. I'll make things a lot harder for when I have to go, put in work.
How tall are you for the record?
Huh?
How tall are you for the record?
I mean, I'm going to plead the fifth on that one.
I thought you were going to say 6'2". I'm like, sure.
No, but so those are the type of fears that you have, and I guess you could say the cliche. No dad wants to see their daughter on a pole. Not to diminish that line of work, but there's the little common fears like that. But the big ones is just mostly just understanding how, unfortunately, some people in society will perceive them, and making them understand that, be honest with yourself. Don't keep yourself in situations that you're not genuinely happy in, because I'm pretty sure most people have friends where they just keep themselves in a very shitty situation just because I don't want to be by myself. I don't want to do something else. And then you're just like, no, just get out of there. Life is so much better if you just keep your mind open that there's better options out there. So I try to emphasize, obviously with the 10-year-old, with the 10-year-old, she's a little bit too young to understand that. But, with the older ones, I try to be like, hey, it's okay.
Yeah. Since I've known you, you've always been pretty level-headed and pretty reliable. And as you're talking about raising your children and having that family and that support system, how much do you think that that's actually influenced who you are today as a parent?
Oh,
100%.
100%. Because I look at that, and there's a lot of. So I look at my upbringing and the morals that were instilled to me from my parents, if you will. And then I look at how I was raised, and I try to echo that sentiment to how I'm raising my kids. So you look at how you're raised, you always, I'm a child of an immigrant. So it's like always be respectful to your elders, work hard and everything like that. So, and, be good to people in general. So that's the way I've always approached life. Whenever I have a job, I give it 100%. Whenever I meet people, I treat people with kindness and courtesy until they give me a reason not to. And so that's definitely helped me establish relationships and with all types of people from all walks of life. And then that in turn influences me because I get to see how different people live their lives through different lenses. And I try to do my best to incorporate the pros from different people and see how can I take a positive from your life and incorporate it into my life. Will that make a positive for me? So I think that my family influence is a huge influence. Even the influence of my friends is a huge influence.
Yeah, that's awesome. What's the biggest lesson you've learned so far in your journey as a parent?
There's no perfect recipe. And what I mean by that is there's my way of raising my kids doesn't necessarily translate to how you can raise your kids or anybody else's kids. What works for me works for me. But the one thing I would say that I would hope is universal that a lot of people will take into consideration is that, don't think you have to get it right out the box. It's okay to make mistakes. Just learn from that mistake, learn from those mistakes, and improve for the sake of yourself and for the sake of your child. That's the way I have to approach it. If I try to do everything perfect, I'd go crazy by now.
Yeah,
I'd go crazy.
Yeah, dude, seriously. Let's see, what else, man? I'm trying to think of how deep we're trying to get here, but
go deep.
If to kind of go back on today's day and age and race and nationality, there was two things I wanted to ask you. One of them was I vividly remember a time where it was during COVID actually. We had a virtual happy hour, and this was right when Black Lives Matter was happening.
Yeah, I remember that.
We can cut it out if you don't want to talk about it.
No, that's fine.
I'm curious because I obviously am not in that situation, so I'm just very curious how those conversations, if any, that you had with your children, how did they go? How did you have to talk about it as a family?
Yeah, I mean, as a Black person, you always got to talk the topic of race and how it interacts with people with authority. Even if the whole Black Lives Matters movement didn't happen, that conversation always happens because I've been in situations prior to Black Lives Matters to where it's been something as simple as I go to a barbershop and I walk in, they're like, we don't cut your type of hair here. That could be perceived as hey, you're at Great Clips, you need to be at the sports cut down the road. Or it could be perceived like you're not welcome, I've been in situations to where this is super stupid, but I'll talk to somebody online in terms of dating. And the second I mention that I'm a Black person, the whole length of time that we're conversing, it's done. All for that simple matter, So, and then there's also been times where I'm walking out of a video game shop and literally have basketball shorts and a tank top and a bag with a video game in it. There's a cop standing at the door. He calls him a random name, I think Jerome. I don't turn around. And then he calls it again. I still don't turn around. At this point in time, I'm literally the only person in the parking lot. But when he says it the third time, I turn around. I was like, I'm assuming you're trying to get my attention. Why didn't you turn around when I called you? Because my name's not Jerome. And he was the whole time, hand on the gun. Whole time. And like, and like, I'm thinking to myself, I'm not a threat. Like, it's not like I'm having anything to where something could be perceived hidden on me. I'm wearing basketball shorts and a tank top, and I literally walked out the store with a GameStop bag in my hand. So, and that whole confrontation, and then he was very aggro with me because he was mad I didn't respond to him. But in my mind, it's like, why would I respond to a name that's not my name? And, I had to show him his ID. I showed him my ID, and he held me there for like 30 minutes. And the whole time, hand on his gun, just asking me random questions. Even after I showed my ID and I established my name is not Jerome. So if I'm not the person that you're looking for,
why are we here?
Why are we still talking? So all those things happened to me before Black Lives Matter was a thing, and all those type of things have happened to multiple other people of color. Because let's be real, it doesn't just happen to Black people; it happened to just people of color. We'll just leave it at that. And so when the movement happened, and prior to the movement happening, I talked to my kids about it, that type of stuff. And then when the movement happened, it was like more like it was plastered. And since the Black Lives Matters movement impacted more I won't say impacted, but it kind of motivated the younger group to pay attention to that stuff. It was more just saying like, hey, this is why I've been telling you guys what I've been telling you guys, because stuff like this happens. The only difference is the stuff like this has been happening. The only difference now is that everybody has a cell phone or a camera on them now. So it's put into the forefront a lot easier than before. So,
damn, that I don't even know what to say to that. That like it's so.
Yeah, it's life. It shouldn't be that way, but like I look at it this way. It sucks. It happens. I have the mentality to bear it. I have the mentality to go through with it and to persevere through it, and just to make sure that I'd rather it happen to me than to my kids. And so if I have to deal with that 10 times so that way my kid doesn't have to deal with it one less time, I'll happily deal with it.
Yeah, for sure.
And and for every bad interaction, there's at least 10 or 12 positive ones with different people. So I feel like the scale to a degree balances, which might be controversial to say, but it's not to belittle those events, you know what I mean? But if I spend in my mind, if I spend too much time focusing on the negative, it'll just fill my heart with hatred, and I can't live my life that way. I need to be a more positive person. I acknowledge that fucked up shit happens, and anything I could do to prevent said fucked up shit from happening, I will, but I can't live every day dwelling on it.
This goes back to something I said in one of our season 2 episodes that hasn't aired yet, but I get so protective of friends and family, and like just hearing you having to like this is part of your everyday, and like it's a fact that is for you, and that it's not something that it's not a conversation that I had to have, right? Like it wasn't. We knew what was going on, and Bizzle and I were sitting in the living room watching the news. We were in Georgia when this was going down, and we had that happy hour, and you were sharing real experiences that you have had, and I just remember getting angry then, and I'm getting angry now, and it pisses me off that that's just something that you have to deal with, period.
What I always tell people, whenever, like one of my local bars that I go to all the time, the owner loves having serious conversations with me, especially when I'm drinking. I don't know why, but he loves it, but it's okay. I always tell him, like, my main thing is just like, this conversation is not going to solve anything.
Yeah.
Honestly. But what's important is that we're having the conversation. A lot of people are afraid to just have the conversation, have the honest conversation, I should say. And not a conversation when I'm pandering to you, or you're pandering to me, or I'm trying to prove my point to you, or you try to prove your point to me. It's just having a conversation. My thing is, like, when I talk to people about anything, I just want to understand where you're coming from. And hopefully, I want you to understand where I'm coming from. That's it. I'm not trying to get you on my side, and I'm not going to try to get you, I don't want you trying to get me on your side. I just want you to understand the path that I walked, and I want to try to understand the path that you walked. Hopefully by just understanding each other, we could see, oh, okay, and come to the conclusion ourselves that, you know what, I see where they're coming from. Maybe the way I thought about this or that needs to be reevaluated. Because once you start trying to like tell people like, this is how it should be, this is how it should be, this is how it should be, it stops being a conversation, it starts being a debate or argument. And then you really don't get anywhere that way. So when I've talked to Bizzle about this stuff. I talked to many people in our friend group about this stuff. I talked to people at the bar I go to a lot about this stuff. And they're like, you don't seem like a quote unquote angry black man. I'm like, because I'm not. Like I'm angry, but I'm not. It doesn't. What purpose does it solve if I'm yelling and screaming to somebody that's actually trying to understand something? So I just approach everything just like, let's just have the conversation. Let's see where you're at. Hopefully you'll see where I'm at, and let's see from there we could build and try to get somewhere. But if you're not willing to have that conversation, then there's no point. There's no point, in my opinion.
I was just going to say that it sounds a lot like, just for me, because I'm a lesbian, right? So in the LGBTQIA plus, with all the crap that's going on in today's world, I mean, it's a lot of crap for us.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't walk around as an angry lesbian because why? We get nothing out of it, right? If you don't like me, I don't fucking care. And I just kind of walk away from that. But if somebody wants to have an intelligent conversation about it, about why I am the way I am, I'll do that. But you know what? I'm, like you said earlier, I hope that in the next 20 years, we're not having these same kinds of conversations.
Yeah, I agree.
As much as like this has happened for so many years, my only like spark of like, I don't even want to say it's a spark of hope. It's just what I'm doing with Nugget and what Bizzle and I are doing with Nugget is that like, I'm like, I just want to raise a human being who loves human beings, and that there isn't like, I don't want him to see somebody for their race, for their sexual orientation, for any of that. Like, I want him to see it's a human being, it's an individual, it's somebody that he can respect, love. It doesn't matter. Like, I want him to just love the human, you know? And maybe, I mean, hopefully there are other people that are out there that are doing the same thing. And maybe one day we can just love each other, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Plus the Nuggets, he's cool people. He has good influences. he has good influences around him. That's my little Nugget.
Yeah, I mean, I think exposing him to different people is like key, and teaching him like we're all humans.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff comes from just like a lack of knowing, you know, and a lack of bad source information, like, you know, people that passing down bigotry and hatred through religion, family, and stuff like that. And a lot of times, once you actually open up the individual to just real life experiences, and hopefully if they haven't been tainted, but you know, once you open up to real life experiences, stuff like that, then they sometimes, you know, they could come up to their own conclusion. Hence why I emphasize, let's just have a conversation. I don't need you to like me. Let's just talk. And then maybe I might say something that you didn't know, be like, oh, for real? That's how it is? Word? Damn, son, you know? And then next thing you know, I got a new BFF.
Aw. Well, you're likable.
I have my moments.
It's okay to be not okay. Just make sure you're talking to someone.